Hey everybody, Tom Coyle, and I'm going to discuss who I believe was the most effective leader during World War II. For this reflection, I'm going to focus on the big three of Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt. Several factors eliminate the Axis leaders from the conversation of most effective, not the least of which is they lost the war. And while Chiang Kai shek achieved quite a bit, his successes were less victories of leadership and more victories of stalemate and sacrifice. Now, Stalin certainly proved that he was up to the task of leading the Soviet Union to victory, both as a military leader and as a diplomat. He was wise enough to begin trusting his generals after Barbarossa, and he was skilled enough on the international stage to secure all the assistance that he needed from Great Britain and the United States. While he did marshal the will of the Soviet people during their Great Patriotic War, he also showed time and again that he was willing to sacrifice millions of Russian lives for the sake of victory. Roosevelt was an amazing leader. He was the exact president that the United States needed to reverse the economy during the Great Depression. His support of Great Britain and later the Soviet Union was crucial to their survival against Germany, but he never faced the same test that Stalin and Churchill did, and that was the imminent threat that his nation could be overthrown by an invading force. His leadership was admirable, but I believe he takes a clear second place here. Now, that leaves us with Winston Churchill. In my opinion, Winston Churchill was the single most effective leader during World War II. In May of 1940, he refused the offer to negotiate a peace with Hitler. He realized that if Great Britain capitulated, Europe in all likelihood would be completely lost to the Nazis. This stroke of leadership was even more impressive given that as he made the decision, the entire British Expeditionary Force was stranded at Dunkirk. Days later, when he learned that much of the force was returned back to England, he gave the famous speech in front of Parliament where he vowed to fight on the beaches and fight in the fields and fight in the streets, and we shall never surrender. And that really galvanized his people. Beyond speeches, Churchill had all the diplomatic skills necessary to build essential alliances with Roosevelt and Stalin. Obviously, the supplies that the United States provided as part of the Lend-Lease program were crucial. And despite vast ideological differences, Churchill recognized that Stalin made for a very powerful ally and a necessary ally. Churchill once quipped that the only thing worse than fighting with allies was fighting without them. And he nurtured these alliances and he recognized them as very necessary components to victory. In his book, Closing the Ring, Churchill reflects on a moment that he had during the summit in Tehran between the leadership of the United States and Great Britain and the Soviet Union. On the third night, he was sitting at dinner between Stalin and Roosevelt, and he marveled at the amount of military might that these three men represented. He also marveled how far he had come since 1940, when the British seemed all alone, in his words, practically unarmed against Germany and Italy. Churchill deserved that moment of joy, realizing that he had built a coalition that was on the brink of defeating Hitler. And his masterful leadership helped to preserve the sovereignty of his beloved Great Britain. And that's why I believe that Winston Churchill was the most effective leader during World War II. Thank you for watching.